Hey guys, it's Cory from Cory Baker Filmmaker, and I just saw Vice, written and directed by Adam McKay. I caught Vice at the Regal LA Live uh, in retrospect of the year that was. If you want to watch the featurette that I did on the Regal LA Live, it's right up there for you. I saw it with the many Regal Rewards points that I had accumulated over the course of the year from all the times that I saw Movie Pass movies there. They were all going to expire at the end of the year, so I wanted to make sure I saw at least one more movie at Regal before all these points went away. So I saw a matinee showing of Vice. Uh, Regal LA Live. It's good and consistent as usual. I would. I'm still on the lookout for my Movie Pass replacement because there's not even a point in owning Movie Pass anymore. You're just throwing away $10 a month if you do. So I'm going to be canceling ASAP. And if anyone has a compelling alternative, Cinemia, AMC, A-List, all those things, just let me know. Let me know what works best for you, and I'll check it out. Vice is the story of former Vice President Dick Cheney. It sort of has a inconsistent narrative of skipping back and forth between Cheney when he's young, Cheney when he's vice president, Cheney, like it just sort of moves all about and tells little tiny ancillary stories about his life. This is a really complicated movie to sort of find your way around because while Dick Cheney, the person, is no angel and is certainly a good enough villain to be dedicating an entire movie to, why is he so terrible? It also seems very arbitrary at the same time because you could pick so many people over the course of the last 50 years in American politics and give the same treatment to not just Dick Cheney, but on the other side of the aisle as well. And there were parts of this movie that felt very much like Adam McKay kind of sort of had this anger over Dick Cheney for the past 20 years and has just been simmering in it and decided to make it into a movie. I I get it. It's just a little. I feel like he could have done a little bit more to make it not even-handed because it's not about like making you seeing the kind personable side of Dick Cheney. It just sort of felt like it was let's beat the shit out of Dick Cheney for 2 hours kind of thing, and that doesn't really make you as an audience member feel like you're like it doesn't seem like the best version of how to tell the story. It's just my personal feeling, and I don't know. There's a couple flaws with this movie. Uh, let's start with the good. Christian Bale, Amy Adams are both amazing, excellent in this movie. Uh, if each of them won a Best Acting Oscar for their portrayal in this movie, I would not be shocked. Christian Bale, to me, still a couple movies with people who are in the running for Best Actor, but you're gonna have a hard time convincing me that somebody did a better job than Christian Bale did in this movie. He was incredibly excellent, and then just up and down, they had great people doing great roles. Uh, I love Jesse Plemons. I've made no secret of that, and I think him as sort of your roving narrator was a wonderful touch. The fact that this movie, McKay comes from comedy, and it's it certainly has its funny moments. It's not a comedy like a straight up comedy by any means, but it's uh, it got all the backbone of a good comedy, and it makes it a really entertaining watch just from beginning to end. I mean, I didn't walk out of this movie saying what the hell did I just see. I had a good time. I really enjoyed it. Obviously there were a lot of like all the pieces fit together right. It's just sort of So going to McKay's last, I loved The Big Short. I thought it was fantastic. I was walking into this movie hoping that I would see a little bit of uh, a build on the things that I saw in The Big Short, but it was kind of like a spiritual sequel, at least in the way that it felt and the way that it played out, as opposed to a whole and new complete thing. There was one really big surprise that I wasn't expecting, and there was one thing that I really didn't like. The surprise was that Tyler Perry as Colin Powell was great. I really enjoyed that. If you would have asked me going in whether or not I would have cast Tyler Perry as Colin Powell, I would have said no. There's many people who I would put on the list ahead, but he did a pretty remarkable job of not only getting sort of his cadence and the way that he feels, but being the being the rigid stick, like ramrod straight Colin Powell that we all know. On the other side, Sam Rockwell as W was of anything in this movie. I mean, it's got Steve Carell as Rumsfeld, like joking around and being very Steve Carell like, but Sam Rockwell of anybody felt like a SNL character that just decided to come to life in a movie of otherwise serious and upstanding performances. It's not necessarily Rockwell's fault either. It's just it feels like this movie just didn't like. So there's like if you want to hear me go expound upon politics, you can see the O the Anthem podcast for that. We do plenty on that side, but it's just George W. Bush was not as stupid or as hopeless as Sam Rockwell played him off to be. And that's not necessarily Sam Rockwell's fault in how he portrayed him. Like there was writing that went into making him seem that way as well. And Rumsfeld wasn't as like, this sort of a lounge singer kind of stand-up comedian that Carell sort of playing him off like. And there's a lot of things that they sort of like skip too quickly. Like, so, they talk about Roger Ailes and the Nixon White House. And they sort of make it seem like one decision by Dick Cheney was all it took for Fox News to become a thing. And there are plenty of movies out there that are going to be talking about Roger Ailes and the Fox News story. And there's way more to it than just one decision by Dick Cheney that caused all this to happen. And, it's the same. It's the shorthand version of every story, but the longhand version is almost more interesting. I think it would have, if I had to come up with the best version of Vice, in my mind, it would probably be more along the lines of what Sorkin did with Steve Jobs, where you don't have time to tell the whole Steve Jobs story. You don't have 5 hours to make like a long version of the Steve Jobs story. But what you can do is you can show 3 events, and you can sort of do 3 separate moments of the life and sort of get a pretty good crystallization of who that person is. And I think that if Vice was more fine-tuned, then it would probably be a more entertaining flick. That all this being said, I really enjoyed the movie. If I could make a suggestion to Adam McKay for his next movie, it would be to see what you can do about telling a story a little bit differently than you had with The Big Short and Vice. Because when I had gone from seeing, his comedic work, the Anchorman and the Talladega Nights and stuff like that, to his more serious, drama-minded comedies, the Big Shorts and the Vices, just the move from sort of the comedies to Big Short, I was like, wow, he's got a really interesting ability to have a different take on this sort of thing. Vice was a continuation of Big Short, and I was kind of expecting that when I walk in, it would be another variation of what we like. It would be the same sort of jump that we had from an Anchorman to to a Big Short, as opposed to what we ended up with, the Big Short to Vice, which was a very kind of lateral move. But the writing is top notch. The acting was great, and everyone below the line definitely did all they could to make this movie shine. And it's a testament not only to them but to Adam McKay for shepherding such a great team. The results are in, and we're ready to declare the leaderboard, your next president. Saw this movie at Regal LA Live. Yet again, another one up there. If I don't end up going with Cinema, we might seeing a lot less of Regal LA Live in 2019, but that's sort of how it goes. Onto the movie leaderboard. This is a movie I would definitely recommend people see. I don't know if I would say rush out and drop everything and go to the theaters to see it like right now. It's worth seeing at some point though, because it's interesting. But much like its subject, it's very conflicted. It has a lot of. It's sort of hard to be able to accurately portray Dick Cheney the way that I think would be the best version of him in a movie representation, but this is a very good at bat at a very difficult subject. If I had to give it a rating, give it a 7.8. Very enjoyable, but sort of know what you're getting into. At the end of the whole thing, they go back to this focus group thing where it speaks more to this idea of like sort of like a liberal bias going into this movie and stuff like that. And I can understand how people would have that feeling after they walk out of the movie, especially if they're on the right side of the aisle. But it's not, my problems with it are not because of any kind of bias or any sort of political leanings that Adam McKay might have. It just seems that it just feels more like you've made a movie about somebody you just have been seething over for a while, and it sort of plays out in the frames of the flick. So anywho, that's it for me. If you want more, you can go to my website, CoryBakerFilmmaker.com, Facebook.com/CoryBakerFilm, or at LegendsCB5 on Twitter or Instagram. Please let me know what you thought about this. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it. If you didn't, then I guess you could give me a thumbs down, or you could just politely go away. Any comments below? I respond to every single comment, so let me know new options for how to go see movies. Other things that I should see before I decide to give Christian Bale the Best Actor nominee or Best Actor Oscar. But that's it. Thank you so much for watching throughout 2018. I hope everyone is having a lovely and wonderful 2019, and I will see you again real soon.